Okay, this is 7th grade lesson 3.5. This is actually day 2. Today, students will solve proportions using ratio tables. They will also solve for a missing side of similar geometric figures using proportions. The standards covered are 7RP 2B. The page numbers out of the hardcover book are pages 124 through 127, and out of the practice journal, pages 71 through 74. Really, most of this lesson is an extension of stuff that we've done out of the book. So you'll be using more of a worksheet off of this one. Okay, so today we're going to be we'll start out with word problems. Kids get very good about solving proportions, but then as soon as they're given a word problem, sometimes they get confused. So we're going to go ahead and practice using a table, a ratio table to set up to solve for word problems. So here we have Mr. Davis divided his money in the ratio of 4 to 6 between James and Brett. So the key thing to remember, unless there's other information that's included, usually the ratios, the way they're set up, goes along with the way that the names are set up, like here it's names, unless other information is given. So we're going to go ahead and continue reading this. It says James got the smaller amount of the 540. So James got the smaller amount. That means he's the smaller number. So I'm going to do a little marking here. So that's James and this is Brett, and that actually does match up with the order of the names. But every once in a while, they may change that up. So make sure that you're paying attention fully to what they're asking and the information they're giving you. Okay, so it says, how much did Brett receive? How much was in the total of the money? So we're going to go ahead and actually use a 6-box ratio table. Okay, so here's our table. And I'm going to split it up into 2 columns of 3 each. And I'm going to label off to the side. Let's see, we have James and we have Brett, and then we have a total. So I'm going to put my ratio numbers in this column, and my actual numbers, if they give them to me, in that second column. Okay, so James was the smaller number, which was 4, which meant Brett was 6. So we're going to have to figure the total. So if James got 4 parts, and Brett got 6 parts, how many total parts are there between these two? So we're actually going to add those together to find out our total, which gives us 10 parts between the two of them. Okay, so that's the first step, is understanding that part. Now, the other bit of information, they have to at least give us one of the actual numbers. And so when I go back and I reread, it says James got the smaller amount of $540. So James got the $540. So here's my James. And he received $540. It's my actual number. How much did Brett receive? And then how much was our total? So in order for me to go through and solve for Brett, I'm going to do a little cover up here just to help you understand what my brain kind of does. So when I'm looking at this, I start looking at it as 2 ratios. So I'm going to pull that information. For some of you, it's just easier to see. I've got 4 over 6. Is equal to 540 over, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to go ahead and use, like we did in the last few lessons, that cross multiply divide. So pull my calculator out. I've got 540 times 6 and divide that by 4. Or I could have figured out how much each part was and then taken that times 6. So I just found out that Brett got $810. Okay, so then to solve for the last part, there's more than one method. So we could go through and we could set it up as another ratio of 6 over 10 is equal to 810 over blank. Or we can add together between our 2 numbers. It's whatever you're more comfortable with. Since I already have the 810 on my calculator, I'm just going to go ahead and add the 540 that James had. And that gives me $1,350. Okay, and by solving each of those, I have answered both questions. Brett received $810, and the total amount of money received between the two of them was $1,350. Okay, so that's working off of a ratio. Now, you won't always have to use that total on the ratio, but if you need to, it's anytime they are involving a total. Sometimes you can set up just a 4-box setup. Okay, so here's our next one. It says when measuring weight, 6 small dogs are approximately equal to 9 large dogs. So 6 small dogs, 9 large dogs, large cats. How many large cats are equal to 54 small dogs? And then how many small dogs are equal to 12 large cats? Okay, so I'm going to start with the first part. And in my first sentence, it's giving me a ratio. So you could either set them up as one fraction. Otherwise, I do know some people that will set them up like this. 6 small dogs are equal to 9 large cats. Key thing is, anytime you're doing ratios, you are choosing to match labels. So if you choose to set it up the way that I have it here, you just have to make sure that you're matching, you're putting your dogs in the front half and your cats in the second half. Or you could just set up a ratio, just the very first sentence, as a ratio itself. So, and that's what I tend to do. I've got 6 dogs. So I'm going to do dogs over 9 cats. Okay. And you'll notice that either way we choose to do this, we're going to end up cross multiplying between the same numbers. So how many large cats are equal to 54 small dogs? So if I choose to use this one over here, well, 54 dogs was my top number is dogs, so I'm going to put 54. If I choose to set it up here where I set it up as a 6 dogs equals 9 cats, well, the 6 dogs was that front half, so I would have to put the 54 in the front half of my bottom set of fractions. So now I'm going to cross multiply. And notice I end up cross multiplying between 54 and 9 in both setups. So key thing is that you're matching labels. So I'm going to pull my calculator back out and I'm going to go 54 times 9 and divide that by 6. And when I do that, I just found out that that would require 81 cats. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my second question. So sometimes kids get confused when they ask more than one question. Sometimes they think that they have to use that previous answer, and you don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just erase this off and set up my next ratio. It says how many small cats are equal to small dogs are equal to 12 large cats. Okay, so I'm going to take my original ratio that I had. So I had dogs versus cats, and it was 6 to 9. And the third bit of information is 12 large cats. So where I have cats, I'm going to put a 12. Notice. Cats were the bottom here. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply divide 6 times 12 and divide that by 9. And when I do that, I just found out that that would be 8 dogs. Okay, so if they're asking multiple questions, check to see, do I have to use the previous answer? I would have gotten the same thing if I would have even gone off of this. I could have used this new ratio, but I don't have to. And notice on that one, I didn't have a total. I was able to just set it up between the 2 different scenarios where we're just working cats and dogs. Okay, so 35 girls and boys are planned for a walk. So here's the thing. This is talking about girls and boys. That's talking about the total involved. Okay, so here we're going to have a total box. So I like to set it up as a box setup. Okay, so the ratio of 5 girls to 2 boys. So girls to boys, 5 girls to 2 boys, and our total. So our total of our ratio here, 5 plus 2 is 7. Let's see, the third bit of information, there are 35 girls and boys. So that's my total actual number. So remember our actuals are over here. So that's my total. So there's 35 here. How many boys are there? I need this part. Okay, so I'm going to pull this back out and actually pull it so that it's on the top. Okay, so I'm going to cover up that part just so, because now I don't really need that top part. They're only asking me one question and they're asking for the number of boys. So the way that I'm viewing this is 2 over 7 is equal to B for boys over 35. So cross multiply divide, 35 times 2 is 70, divided by 7 would give me 10 boys. And yes, I could figure out how much one part was. If I wanted to figure out 1/7 of 35, I could also do that. But you don't have to do unit rate when you're setting up proportions. Okay, they could have continued to ask a second question on this on the number of girls. If there were 10 boys and we had 35 total, Well, take the 10 boys out of that, that would leave us with 25 girls. So more than one way to go through and actually solve that also. Okay, so I want you guys to try this one. Okay, so we've got a chemistry book, comprises of 2 sections. You've got organic and non-organic in the ratio of 2 to 8. How much of each type of content will be needed to make a book of 400 pages? So you're just talking about, this is a book and it's got 2 sections, like chapter 1 and chapter 2. And they just titled the chapters organic and non-organic, okay? So the ratio is 2 to 8. They're talking here about a total of 400 pages. So you're gonna have to have a total set up here. And they want you to solve for each of these missing boxes. So you've got organic to non-organic and your total. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and solve through this one and then check back with me to make sure that your answer is correct. Okay, so you should have ended up with 80 pages of organic and 320 pages of non-organic. Once again, it's just pulling the information, setting it up in a table, and then choosing to do that cross multiply divide. Pull it out, solve for one, and you can do both of them as proportions, or you can do some subtraction for that second answer. Okay, so our next one is working with when they give us a picture. So here we have geometric shapes, and they are similar, which means they're the same shape, it's just they've taken one of the shapes and either enlarged it or shrunk it down. So the key thing on this is making sure that you're matching sides. So here we don't have dogs and cats, but we have sides. So this side right here, and I'm going to color code on this first one, is the same as this side. Okay, and then we've got these sides are then the same. So I prefer to take my first picture and I set it up as a fraction. So it doesn't matter which number goes on the top, I'll just do 8 over 16. Okay, the key thing is that now when I set up my second fraction, I am matching and saying that this 8 is the same as this 2. So they need to be on the same levels. So I've got 2 over x. Okay, then I can look through and say, okay, what did they do to one to get the other? Or I can do a cross multiply divide, whatever you're more comfortable with. So 2 times 16 would give me 32. Divided by 8 is going to give me 4 for this, so 4 centimeters. Okay, and I would get the same thing if I went through and did 2 times 4 would give me 8. So what times 4 would give me 16? That would be 4. I could work at division. Okay, key thing on this is matching sides and making sure that your sides are matching up. Okay, so here, let's see, when I look at this, here's my really long side. So I need my long side to match my long side. So here's the long side. So what have they done on this one? They've taken and shrunk it and also flipped it over. Okay, but we have to make sure when we set it up that we set them up with the sides on the same levels of our ratios. Okay, so I'm going to take this one and I'm going to write it out as 12 over 8. And if you want to do it as 8 over 12, that's okay. It doesn't matter. The key thing is that my red side here, my long side, has to be on the same level as this long side. So my 6 has to go on the top because those were both the long sides or the red sides over x. Okay, and we'll go ahead and cross multiply divide. Or I could say, well, they took 12 divided by 2 to get 6. So 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 4. So this is 4 yards. Okay, the cross multiply divide would give you the same thing. 6 times 8 is 48 divided by 12. Still gives you 4. It's whatever you're more comfortable with. The cross multiply divide will work every time. Not that the other method won't, but sometimes it's not easy to do in your head. Okay, so I would like you to try this one. So I'm going to do a little color coding on this one. So I've got short side and short side. So that's the key thing, is making sure that you're matching sides. So go ahead and take a minute, set up your ratios, and then check in just a second to see if you have your solving for X, to see if you got the right answer. You should have gotten X equals 13.5 feet. Key thing is if you had set up your ratios slightly different, just make sure that you are matching sides. So take note that I had the 9 feet, my blue side, on the same level as my 2 feet, okay? All right, so let's try one more independently. Okay, so you can go ahead and set this one up. You should have gotten X equals 24 inches. And I know sometimes kids can look at these and be able to say, let's see, they went 6 times 3 to get 18. So 8 times 3 would give me what X is. And that's okay. But I just want you to realize that you can always set it up as a proportion to make it maybe visually easier for you to understand the information that's there. That's it for this part of the lesson. Good luck, and just make sure that you're matching those labels.